Hi, good morning students of 11th Commerce. Welcome to Pandra Sir's virtual class in microeconomics. And yesterday we discussed about indifference curve, its shape and the concept of IC. But today we are going to discuss about the assumptions, means on what preconditions or assumptions the entire theory of indifference curve, which is also called Hicks and Allen module of consumer equilibrium, is based on. So one by one we will discuss the assumptions. So here the first one, that is rationality. So when we try to understand consumer equilibrium with the help of indifference curve approach, then all these things are assumed. The first one, rationality. Rationality means here we assume that our consumer is rational. So what we mean by the word rationality or consumer being rational? Consumer being rational means out of his sacrifice or his spending, he would try to get the maximum possible satisfaction or utility. So that quality of a consumer is called rationality. And we, for example, you know, in marriages, people simply throw away money. So that is not rationality. Suppose you ordered a meal and consumed half of it. So that is not rationality. So in the theory of consumer equilibrium or indifference curve approach, we assume that our consumer is rational in nature. The second point is ordinal utility. As yesterday we have discussed that in indifference curve approach, it is assumed that it is thought that utility is subjective in nature and cannot be measured and expressed in terms of a number and a unit. So numerical measurability of utility or satisfaction is not possible, but we can put different utility that we derive from the consumption of different combination of goods in a definite order. That we can say that in combination 1 we derived the maximum possible satisfaction, it comes in order 1, then in order 2 yet there is another combination of goods, both the goods X and Y, and so on and so on. So ordinal measurability, that means after consuming a given bundle or a couple of bundles of X and Y, we can put the respective satisfaction in a order. The third point is non-satiety. Non-satiety, in this point we would discuss and understand monotonic preference. Often you will get a 1 mark question about what is monotonic preference. So before that, what is non-satiety? Non-satiety means our consumer is never satisfied and he always try or he always wishes to get more and more of both the goods. But is it possible? Here with a limited budget which is fixed and the price of X and Y being fixed, that the consumer is spending all his money for the consumption of two goods X and Y. So in such a case, because our consumer is never satisfied, then he would have three different choices or preferences. The first one, he would try to get or consume more of both X and Y. So income being constant and price being constant means unchangeable. It is never possible that with his limited budget our consumer can increase the consumption of both X and Y. If our consumer tries to increase the consumption of X, then he has to forego or he has to reduce the consumption of Y. Or if our consumer is trying to consume more of Y, then he has to reduce the consumption of X. That's why our consumer's first preference, that is both of X and Y, more of both goods X and Y, is never possible. So that is his preference number 1. Then what what is the second preference of our consumer? Next to it, our consumer would prefer to increase the consumption of one good and keeping the consumption of other good to be unchanged or the same. For example, suppose our consumer is consuming 5 unit of X and 5 unit of Y, then his second preference would be that he would increase the consumption of X from 5 to 7, but at the same time he would not compromise with the consumption of Y, and he would wish to consume the previous 5 unit of Y. So income and price of X and Y being fixed, the second preference is also not possible. Then our consumer is left with only the third preference, that is when our consumer increases the consumption of X, he has to reduce the consumption of Y, and if he increases the consumption of Y, then he has to reduce the consumption of X. So this is called monotonic preference or non-satiety of a consumer. So after that, the fourth point is transitivity of choice. So little bit of mathematics, try to remember transitivity. That is, suppose a consumer has 3 bundle of goods, X and Y, bundle A, bundle B and bundle C. Also we can say our consumer has 3 different combination of goods, A, B and C. If our consumer is preferring A to B, means he is deriving more satisfaction from A than from B, and if he prefers B to C, means our consumer is deriving more satisfaction from consumption or the combination B from combination C, then obviously our consumer would be deriving more satisfaction from A than C. That means if A is greater than B and if B is greater than C, then the law of transitivity says A is greater than C. That is the transitivity of choice. Next, diminishing marginal rate of substitution. Yesterday, this point also we have already discussed. Diminishing marginal rate of substitution, or in short that is called MRS. Marginal rate of substitution, which is nothing but the slope of the indifference curve, or we can say it is del Y upon del X, means the unit change in the consumption of Y, the ratio between the unit change in the consumption of Y and the unit change in the consumption of X. So the unit change in consumption of Y, that is del Y, is change in Y, and del X is change in X. The ratio between del Y and del X is the slope of the indifference curve. It is also called marginal rate of substitution, and it is clear from the diagram that in order to increase 1 unit of X in the first point, the consumer is wishing to sacrifice this amount of Y, and for the next X he is wishing to sacrifice less than the first time, and in the third place it is again less than the second time, and in the fourth place it is less than the third time. That means as the stock of X at the hand of our consumer is going on increasing and increasing and increasing, what is happening? He is willing to sacrifice lesser and lesser Y to gain 1 more unit of X. Why? Because slope or MRS or del Y of del X, del Y upon del X is going on reducing and reducing and reducing, which gives shape to our indifference curve. That's why this is the reason, because the slope or the MRS is reducing gradually. That's why our indifference curve is convex to the origin. That means the value is protruding towards the point of origin and not away from the point of origin, like that PPC or production possibility curve. So that's why diminishing marginal rate of substitution, which gives our indifference curve its peculiar shape, convexity or convex to the point of origin. So the entire theory of indifference curve approach or ordinal utility analysis or Hicks-Allen model of consumer equilibrium is based on these 5 assumptions, and the theory would work, the model would work if and only if these 5 assumptions are true. So it is enough for today. Tomorrow we will be discussing about the characteristic of indifference curve, and go through the book and read about the characteristic, and tomorrow we will discuss that thing. Thank you and have a nice day.